Hi guys, and welcome to another episode of the Lost Archives, a Star Wars Legends lore series. Today, I'm going to talk about a race you have all heard of, but never actually seen in any of the main movie timelines. What I'm referring to is the fabled Bothans, a species that hails from the planet of Bothawi, known for their espionage and tactical missions on behalf of various organisations. This has included everything from the Galactic Republic to the Empire, and then later on when they joined the Rebel Alliance. They also gained quite a prominent role in the New Republic, even one of their members serving as the Chief of State of the New Republic, as well as one of the Grand Admirals of the New Republic, serving as its military commander. Now, considering the appearance of the Bothans, one might assume that they are essentially canine people, but they have a varying different degrees of body structure, which has led them to look on occasions canine or even feline. The best way of essentially describing this is they are a short race of furry humanoids who generally stand about 1.5 to 1.6 metres in height. Now, the fur covers their entire body and will shift depending on their emotional state, usually given away by the gentle ripplings of the fur. In the expanded universe, this is actually given in great detail and is used as a further way to show their prowess in the realms of politicians and spies, as they could be using it as a ploy to make somebody think something else, or using it to put them on edge. Very clever, to be fair. Yeah, it's no wonder that Palpatine went and attacked the world after what happened with the Death Star plans. Essentially, they mostly joined the Rebel Alliance after they'd leaked some information to the rebels. This is not before the many Bothans died incident, this is much before. And so Palpatine showed up in person and laid siege to one of their cities. After that, he thought that would have quelled any rebellious thoughts. He only went and intensified it, and a whole swarm of them went and joined the Rebel Alliance. Ah, Palpy, you had to go and mess things up for yourself, didn't you? Then again, you have a habit of doing that. But yes, a brief history of the Bothans is they were a member race of the Galactic Republic from at least, I believe it was 4000 BBY, but they don't really gain much prominence in the canon until the Galactic Civil War era, and then of course the famous line in Return of the Jedi, "Many Bothans died bringing us this information." Bothan culture is very heavily guided by philosophy and principles set forth in an ancient text that's simply known as the Way, or in this case the Bothan Way, which essentially makes the pursuit of power and influence quite paramount. This means that individual Bothans will put their own political and economic success above other concerns. This has a knock-on effect, meaning that the Bothan society in general, as a galactic player, will put their own advancement above any other intergalactic interests. This did have a notable effect during the Galactic Civil War, as those that sided with the Rebel Alliance meant that the amount of backstabbing, character assassinations and political maneuvering in the Bothan society itself was dazzling, and resulted in many speeches basically painting the Bothans as untrustworthy. Which, ironically enough, most Bothans are, as a theory of habit, are quite paranoid, believing that anyone who is not working with them is working against them. Now, in times of crisis, the Bothan society and culture will shift into a survivalist state known as Arcry. This essentially means that any able Bothans or anyone who would be considered fit and able to fight would volunteer to defend the species from any impending annihilation. The most recent version of this was during the Yuuzhan Vong invasion, just after the Bothan head of state of the New Republic was killed, and, well, I'll get onto that when I do his character background. Basically, Outcry was declared and all of the Bothans leapt into action to try and prevent the annihilation of their species by the Yuuzhan invasion forces. But that's a story for another time. Swiftly moving on to anyone who is typically less Bothan than anybody else. There is the rumour that all Bothans smell the same. Most Bothans sit there and think, how the hell did this ridiculous rumour get started? We don't smell the same. Now, what I am referring to here is the various Bothan clans. Each of them have their own distinct scent. This means that immediate families are organised into large clans. Now, these were the most important social units in Bothan society. Family and clan loyalty were equally as important as power acclamation. Now, clan association was usually donated in the last component on a Bothan's name. For example, Borsk failure is actually broken down into 3 separate bits. Borsk is his given name, Fi is his family name, and Elia is his clan name. To those not really versed in how Bothan society works, this can appear to be very, very confusing. Perhaps if I decide to do a video on the various breakdowns of the families and clans of the Bothans, I will go into more detail of this later. Anyway, moving on. The Bothan government is essentially ruled by a Bothan council. Now, this is a representative of selected Bothan clans, with the primary governmental body being known as the combined clans. Now, the leader of this council is known as the First Secretary. Now, they lead the council from the headquarters on the main square in their capital of Drevston. Now, originally this council was separated into various stuff. See, for example, the Bothan Independent Treasury was its own separate entity originally, as well as the Bothan Diplomatic Corps. During the time of the Clone Wars, the council absorbed most of these other groups into its operations, as they saw it as wasteful and corrupt and ineffective. The only one that really kind of didn't get absorbed into this was the Bothan Diplomatic Corps, but everything from social, political, economic, security and various other things to do with Bothan life all became run and organised by the Bothan Council. There's a word for that, but no, oh well. Though on a notable exception, the Bothan Diplomatic Corps did actually start using the responsibility it held to start furthering the Bothan ideals. Primarily, they were also what made sure the Bothans, once the New Republic was started, made sure their ends were met. Hopefully this gives you guys some ideas into the inner workings of Bothan society and a little bit about their culture. I may do more breakdowns on this later. On one final note before I bring this to a close, I will notice a severe lack of use of the Bothans in the Disney canon. This is actually quite surprising to me, because they're featured quite prominently as the reason why they had the plans and the way of destroying the second Death Star. I am wondering if this is to do with a license issue or if Disney are further limiting themselves by trying to distance themselves from the expanded universe. Whatever their reason, it's a little bit odd in my opinion, but hey, they own the licenses, so whatever they want to do, that's up to them. As always guys, you'll find my sources in the description. I'll also include a link to the official Canon's description so you can have a look yourself if you'd like to. Anyway guys, I hope you've enjoyed this. If you did, feel free to share it around. Please subscribe to the channel and check the bell for notifications. And I'll see you on the next episode of The Lost Archives. Have a good day and take care.